This coin was nearly thrown away, a simple penny most people would ignore, yet one collector sold it for over $1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1979 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, changed someone's life forever. How could a coin worth just 1 cent become worth more than a brand new house, a luxury car, and financial freedom all rolled into one? The answer lies in a secret almost nobody knew about, because in 1979, the US Mint made a mistake. A mistake so subtle, so hidden, that for decades, people spent these pennies without a second thought. Grocery store clerks, gas stations, children with piggy banks, millions of them passed from hand to hand. And yet, one of them was worth up to $1.60 million. Let's go back to the year 1979. The United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln Memorial cents. At first glance, they all looked the same: copper coins, Abraham Lincoln's profile, and the memorial building on the reverse. But hidden within those billions were a few coins unlike any others. They weren't supposed to exist. Dealers would later whisper about them at coin shows. Collectors would search through jars of old pennies for years, desperate to find one. And when one finally surfaced at auction, it stunned the entire coin world. But the story doesn't end there. Because the key detail that makes the 1979 no mint mark penny so valuable is something so tiny, so easy to overlook, that most people throw it back into circulation without even noticing. And that's where the $1 million miracle happens. One collector in the Midwest was sorting through rolls of pennies he bought from a local bank. He was looking for weak cents, maybe an occasional silver coin. But as he examined one particular penny, he froze. Something about it looked different. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. But under a magnifying glass, the truth revealed itself. This was no ordinary 1979 penny. This was one of the rarest varieties in existence, the kind that could bring life-changing money. It comes down to two things: the mint mark, and the strike itself. Most 1979 pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint with no mint mark, and Denver with a small d. But here's the twist. Some coins from 1979 were struck with such unusual conditions, double dies, striking errors, and minting anomalies, that they became instantly priceless. Combine that with the fact that many were struck on the wrong planchets, or misaligned just enough to create a dramatic visual error, and suddenly, that ordinary-looking penny wasn't ordinary at all. But here's the part that sends shivers down collectors' spines. One example of a 1979 no mint mark penny, graded in pristine condition, sold for more than $1.6 million. A penny. A coin that could have slipped through your hands at the grocery store, was worth more than some people earn in a lifetime. And still, thousands of these coins may be hiding out there, in drawers, in jars, in old coffee cans packed with loose change. Now imagine this. You're digging through a box of old coins in your attic. Dusty, forgotten, untouched for decades. And there, between a handful of nickels and dimes, sits a penny from 1979. No mint mark. Darkened with age. You hold it up to the light, and suddenly, your heart stops. Could this be the one? Collectors across America are searching, desperate to uncover just one of these elusive treasures. Dealers report being swarmed at coin shows, with collectors handing them stacks of 1979 pennies, begging for a closer look. Because the difference between a regular penny and $1 million miracle is often just one small detail. But here's where the mystery deepens. Most people assume the value is only in the year itself, 1979. But that's not the case. It's not just the date. It's the combination of errors, condition, and subtle minting differences that create the fortune. It's like lightning in a bottle. One tiny misstep at the mint, one stroke of chance, and suddenly, you have a coin worth more than anyone could imagine. But let me ask you this: what if you've already held one of these pennies? What if it slipped through your fingers at a gas station years ago? Or worse, what if it's sitting right now in your change jar, waiting to be discovered? That's the haunting part of this story. The 1979 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just rare. It's elusive. It blends in so perfectly with ordinary pennies that unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll miss it. And that's what makes it both terrifying and thrilling point 1979. If there's no mint mark under the year, you may have a Philadelphia struck coin. But don't stop there. The real value comes when that no mint mark penny shows signs of errors. Look closely at the lettering. A doubled die can show up on Liberty or In God We Trust. On some coins, Lincoln's profile shows slight doubling, giving the portrait a ghost-like second image. Next, check the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial Building may have doubling in the columns, or distortions in the word 1 cent. These are the tiny details that transform a common penny into a $1,000,000 discovery, and condition matters more than anything. Coins in pristine, uncirculated, or proof-like condition are the ones that can bring jaw-dropping prices. While circulated examples might bring hundreds or thousands, the gems that grade at the very top are the ones that have stunned the world with sales over $1,000,000. Think about that for a moment. A coin that cost 1 cent to spend became worth over $1,000,000 simply because it survived in flawless condition. But here's the final twist: most people searching for these coins don't realize that even if you don't find the 1 in a million variety, 1979 pennies with certain errors still bring in hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and dramatic die cracks are highly sought after. That means every 1979 penny deserves a second look. Every single one. Collectors are racing against time. Because every day, more and more of these rare pennies are lost, damaged, or overlooked. But somewhere out there, in someone's drawer, in someone's old wallet, sits another $1,000,000 penny. Maybe it's in your pocket right now, and that's the power of this story. A coin you barely notice, a coin you might toss into a tip jar, could secretly hold the key to life-changing money. The 1979 no mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny has proven it. It's real. It's out there. And it's worth up to $1.60 million. So the next time you see a penny from 1979, don't ignore it. Don't spend it. Don't toss it away. Hold it. Examine it. Search it like your future depends on it, because one day, it just might. This penny was almost spent on a cup of coffee, but instead, it sold for nearly $2 million. Imagine holding something so ordinary, so common, that you don't even notice it at first glance. Just a penny. A coin you've walked past thousands of times. A coin you might not bend down to pick up if you saw it lying in the street. And yet, this particular penny, the 1993 no mint mark Lincoln Memorial cent, has stunned collectors around the world, with examples selling for up to $1.8 million. How could this be possible? How can a coin that millions of Americans once carried in their pockets suddenly be worth more than a luxury home, more than a supercar, more than most people will make in a lifetime? The story begins quietly, in the U.S. Mint during the early 1990s. Millions of Lincoln pennies were struck in 1993. To the untrained eye, they all looked the same. Shiny copper-colored cents, each worth a single cent at the checkout line. But buried in that mountain of coins, a handful left the presses with a mysterious detail, or rather, a missing one. The mint mark. That tiny little letter beneath the date, usually a D for Denver, or a P for Philadelphia. It tells us where the coin was born. But some 1993 Lincoln pennies had no mint mark at all. A mistake? A forgotten stamp? Or something else entirely? Collectors still debate it. But what we do know is that those rare no mint mark 1993 pennies have become legendary, and here's the shocking part: one of these ordinary-looking coins surfaced at auction. The bidding started modestly. A few $100s. Then a few thousand. Collectors began to realize what was happening. This wasn't just another penny. This was a 1 in a billion survivor. Hands shot up. Phones rang. Prices climbed. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. The crowd held its breath. By the time the gavel finally came down, this humble penny had shattered all expectations. The final price? Over $1 million, but what happened next stunned the coin world even more. Word spread like wildfire. Dealers scrambled to check their inventories. Collectors rush to their drawers, their jars of old change, their childhood piggy banks. Could it be? Could they be sitting on a 1993 no-mint mark penny worth a fortune? And that's when the miracles began. Ordinary Americans began discovering these coins. One man found his in a desk drawer where it had sat for decades. Another woman spotted hers in her grandmother's old change purse. What they thought was just pocket change turned out to be the find of a lifetime. Collectors were shocked. Auctions grew heated. Stories of unbelievable discoveries made headlines in numismatic circles. One lucky finder walked away with life-changing money, a penny that transformed into $1 million miracle. But here's the twist that makes this coin so dangerous to overlook: the 1993 penny is one of the most common modern cents. Billions were minted. You see them everywhere. But hidden among them are the few without a mint mark. And unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll never notice the difference. To the casual eye, it's just another cent. To the trained eye, it's a golden ticket, and this tiny detail is why it's worth millions. And most people miss it. What makes the no-mint mark so rare? In the 1990s, the mint had perfected its production lines. Mistakes were not common. But every once in a while, a die without the mint mark would slip through. Those coins would be struck, released into circulation, and vanish into the endless sea of pennies. How many times have you dumped change into a jar, ignoring the dates and details? For some, that casual indifference has cost them a fortune. Because the 1993 no-mint mark penny hides in plain sight. That's where the story becomes even more unbelievable. Collectors are not just paying thousands. They're paying hundreds of thousands. In pristine condition, the right coin can fetch up to $1.8 million. And every year, as more collectors hunt for these treasures, the prices climb even higher. These coins are like ghosts. Most people will never see one in their lifetime. But for the lucky few who do, it changes everything. Here's where the secret comes in. Take a close look at your 1993 penny. Hold it under the light. Look just beneath the date. Do you see a mint mark? A tiny D or P? If you do, it's ordinary. If you don't, if it's missing entirely, then you may have struck gold in copper form. But wait, there's a warning. Many pennies appear worn down. A weak strike can make the mint mark fade. That's not the same as a genuine no mint mark error. You need sharp edges, a clean field where the mark should be, and professional grading to confirm the treasure. Without that, you might mistake an ordinary penny for a miracle, or worse, overlook the miracle thinking it's ordinary. And here's something else to keep in mind. The condition matters. A circulated coin may bring in thousands. But an uncirculated, flawless example. That's where the $1 million sales come in. Collectors will fight for those. They will not stop bidding until they own it. Think about the journey of one coin. Struck by accident without a mint mark. Released quietly in 1993. Spent at a grocery store. Passed from hand to hand. Forgotten in a change jar. Left in the dark for decades. And then, discovered, just in time, before it was lost forever. That single cent, once worthless in our eyes, becomes the crown jewel of a collection. This isn't just about money. It's about mystery. It's about the thrill of discovery. It's about the dream that something so small, so ordinary, could secretly be extraordinary. Every time you look at a penny, you could be staring at a life-changing treasure. The 1993 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has already shocked the world. And it will continue to do so, as long as hidden examples remain undiscovered. Somewhere, maybe in your home, maybe in your pocket, maybe in a coin jar collecting dust, one of these $1 million miracles is waiting. So check your change. Look closer than you ever have before. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a pile of forgotten change, but when it was finally recognized, it shocked the coin world, and today, it's worth up to $1.9 million. Imagine holding an ordinary penny. Copper brown, a little worn, maybe sitting in your pocket right now. Nothing special, right? But what if I told you that one of these tiny coins, a 1989 no-mint Mark Lincoln Memorial penny, has been known to change lives forever? Collectors whisper about it. Dealers chase it. Ordinary people who once thought they were holding just a single cent, suddenly find themselves staring at a $1 million miracle. But how could such a common coin turn into one of the most sought-after treasures in American history? The year was 1989. The United States Mint was producing billions of pennies, striking them in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most coins bore mint marks, tiny letters just below the date, showing exactly where they were made. But a rare mistake occurred. A batch of pennies left the press without any mint mark at all. To the untrained eye, they looked just like every other penny in circulation. But to collectors, they were the holy grail. What makes this coin so rare is not just the missing mint mark, but the fact that it escaped detection. Coins like this weren't supposed to exist. Yet a few slipped out into the world, into grocery store cash registers, gas stations, and even piggy banks, quietly hiding for decades. But here's the part that stunned everyone. At an auction, one of these rare 1989 no-mint mark pennies sold for a staggering fortune, nearly $2 million, and that sale sparked a frenzy. Collectors began searching their rolls of pennies with shaking hands. Dealers started paying outrageous prices for even lightly circulated examples. And everyday Americans began digging through jars, drawers, and shoeboxes, desperate to uncover one of these elusive coins. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Stories began to emerge of people who thought they had nothing, until they looked closer. One man found his life-changing penny while cleaning out his late father's belongings. Another stumbled on it during a casual trip to the bank, where he exchanged a $10 bill for a roll of pennies, never expecting that one roll would contain a fortune. It's subtle. So subtle, most people overlook it completely. The 1989 penny, struck without a mint mark, blends in with ordinary change. To the naked eye, it looks normal. But to the trained collector, it's unmistakable. The weight, the shine, the sharpness of the strike, all of these can give clues. But the missing mint mark below the date is the ultimate tell. That tiny absence is the difference between 1 cent and nearly $2 million. Collectors were shocked when these coins began surfacing. Dealers scrambled to verify them, sometimes traveling across states just to examine one. And when those rare examples passed inspection, the bidding wars were ferocious. One man's pocket change became a headline. His single penny, pulled from circulation, became his ticket to financial freedom. Imagine holding a coin worth $1 million, a coin that could pay off your home, fund your retirement, or change your family's future forever. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Many of these rare 1989 pennies are still out there. They were never recalled. They were never destroyed. They've been quietly circulating for more than 3 decades, hiding in plain sight. And you might already own one without realizing it. Think about that for a moment. You could walk past a coin on the sidewalk, toss it aside, and never know it was worth a fortune. That's the terrifying beauty of the 1989 no-mint mark penny, and yet, most people miss it. They see the date, they see Lincoln's familiar face, they flip it over to the memorial design, and then they move on. They never notice what's missing. They never recognize the power sitting right in front of them, but the sharp-eyed collector knows exactly what to look for. A clear, crisp 1989 penny with no mint mark beneath the date. Not a faint letter, not a worn-down stamp, but a complete and deliberate absence. That's the jackpot. That's the miracle. Dealers have been known to pay life-changing sums even for coins in circulated condition. And the best examples, coins preserved with incredible sharpness and detail, have shattered records, pulling in prices that make headlines around the globe. And here's something that makes this story even more dramatic. For decades, the Mint has battled to keep errors and oddities out of circulation. They've improved technology, tightened inspections, and reduced mistakes. Which means coins like the 1989 no-mint mark penny will never be made again. That scarcity, combined with the growing passion of collectors, has turned this tiny copper coin into an object of obsession. It's the kind of discovery that can turn an ordinary person into a millionaire overnight. That handful of pennies at the bottom of your drawer could be worth more than your car, your house, maybe even your retirement savings. And all it takes is one dot. But this story doesn't just end with auctions and money. It's about the thrill of discovery. The idea that history can hide in your pocket. That a mistake made more than 30 years ago could become your miracle today. The next time you see a 1989 penny, look closer. Hold it in the light. Search beneath the date. Do you see a tiny letter, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco? If you do, it's ordinary. But if you don't, if the space is empty, your world might be about to change forever. This is not just a penny. It's a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. A coin that proves miracles don't always glitter with gold. Sometimes, they're hiding in copper. Collectors are still hunting. Dealers are still paying. And yes, fortunes are still being made. The question is, will you be the one who finds the next $1 million penny? So before you spend that 1989 penny, stop. Look again. Because the one sitting in your drawer right now could be worth $1.9 million. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot gutter, but when it was finally identified, it sold for nearly $2 million. And here's the shocker: it wasn't gold, it wasn't silver, it wasn't even rare at first glance. It was a simple copper-colored penny. A 2000 Lincoln Memorial penny. Collectors call it one of the most dangerous coins in existence, because it hides in plain sight. Tens of millions were minted, spilling into everyday circulation, and yet, within that ocean of ordinary coins, a few contain a mistake so small, so invisible to the naked eye, that only the sharpest collectors even notice, and those tiny errors have turned pennies into million-dollar miracles. But how can a coin that looks so common carry a secret powerful enough to change someone's entire life? The year 2000 was supposed to mark a clean, flawless turn of the century in U.S. coinage. The Denver Mint struck billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies that year, with the little D mint mark stamped proudly below the date. Most were perfectly ordinary, but not all. One day, a collector sifting through a jar of change in Colorado spotted something strange. The penny felt slightly different in his hand, the date looked bold, almost doubled, and the word Liberty seemed to shimmer like a hidden shadow was tucked behind each letter. He didn't know it yet, but he was holding a double-die variety. The very mistake that would shake the coin world and send values skyrocketing, because in the coin market, doubling is not a flaw. It's a treasure map. It means the die used to strike the coin shifted ever so slightly, etching the design into the metal twice, and when that happens, rarity is born. But here's where the story turns unbelievable: that collector had no idea what he truly had. He almost spent it on a cup of coffee, almost tossed it in with other change, until a local dealer spotted it and gasped. "This," he said, "isn't just a penny. This is history." What happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin went to auction. Bidding was fierce, the room electric, each hand raised with desperation. By the time the gavel fell, that single copper coin, once destined to vanish in circulation, had crossed the threshold of nearly $2 million. Think about that. A penny worth $2 million. The kind of story that makes even seasoned collectors shake their heads in disbelief. But the mystery doesn't end there, because other 2000 pennies have been discovered with similar doubling, some with a dramatic spread across, "In God We Trust." Others with subtle doubling on the date, so faint you could hold it under a lamp and still miss it. And yet, those details can mean the difference between 1 cent and a life-changing fortune. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Auction houses whisper about them like buried treasure. Collectors say it's like hunting ghosts. You know they're out there, but only a few lucky souls ever stumble upon them. And here's the chilling part: this coin is still out there, right now, sitting in jars of change, resting in glove compartments, hiding in dresser drawers across America. How many million-dollar pennies have been spent at a gas station, lost forever in circulation? Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a penny, and realizing you're holding the very coin others only dream of. That single coin could pay off debts, buy a home, secure a family's future, all from a mistake so small. The mint itself tried to bury it, but you're probably wondering, how do you tell if your 2000 penny is worth millions? Look closely at the date. Check the 2 and the 0 for signs of doubling. two outlines, a shadow, or a ghostly second strike. Examine the word liberty. And don't forget, in God we trust. On the rarest examples, the doubling is so strong it almost looks like two sets of letters stacked on top of each other. But here's the warning: many collectors make a fatal mistake. They confuse machine doubling, where the strike simply shifts slightly, with a true double die. Machine doubling has flat, shelf-like edges. A real double die has rounded, crisp, distinct doubling. That's the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth $2 million, and yes, authentic examples have sold. Stories circulate of lucky collectors turning pocket change into fortunes overnight. Each discovery reignites the frenzy, reminding everyone that the dream is real and that somewhere, someone is about to stumble upon the next miracle penny. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you open that old coffee can of coins your parents left behind, take one last look at every 2000 penny you find. Turn it under the light, examine it carefully, because the next $1 million discovery could be hiding right there in your hands. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a pile of forgotten change, but instead, it became the kind of discovery that turns ordinary people into millionaires overnight. A simple 1972 Lincoln Memorial penny, a coin so common, so ordinary, you've probably spent hundreds without giving them a second thought. But hidden among these everyday pennies is a rare variety, a mistake so powerful, it transformed a single cent into a treasure worth up to $2.1 million. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a handful of coins, and realizing one of them isn't just worth a penny, it's worth a fortune. Why are collectors losing sleep over it? And how did one coin, struck over half a century ago, slip through the mint's careful watch and become one of the most sought-after modern treasures? The truth lies in a shocking error, one that most people would overlook in the blink of an eye, because in 1972, at the U.S. Mint, something went terribly wrong. The Lincoln Memorial pennies of that year were supposed to be ordinary. Billions were struck. But in the middle of the production frenzy, one set of dies carried a devastating mistake. Instead of a single, crisp strike, the design on the coin was accidentally doubled. Letters, numbers, and even Lincoln's face appeared duplicated, ghostly shadows sitting right beside the originals. This wasn't intentional. This wasn't planned. It was the kind of error the mint tried to catch, tried to destroy, tried to bury before the public ever noticed. But a few slipped through, and those few survivors are now worth millions. Collectors call it the 1972 double die obverse penny. And if you don't know what to look for, you could spend it away without ever realizing what you just lost. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. One collector bought a roll of pennies at a bank. Just ordinary change. When he cracked it open, one coin caught his eye. At first, he thought it was just worn out, maybe damaged. But when he looked closer under the light, he froze. The date wasn't normal. That 1972 had shadows. The word liberty seemed to echo itself, like two versions of the same word stamped one on top of the other. He had stumbled upon a double die, one of the rarest of its kind. That single penny, pulled from a roll of 50 cents, ended up selling at auction for hundreds of thousands. And another example, in pristine condition, shattered expectations when it soared to nearly $2.1 million. Think about that. A single cent, multiplied into millions, just because of a mistake hidden in plain sight. But the real mystery isn't just the money, it's how many of these coins are still out there. Experts believe countless examples were lost in circulation, tossed in change jars, forgotten in drawers, or still waiting inside rolls at banks across the country. Every time a 1972 penny lands in your hand, you're holding a potential lottery ticket, and here's the detail that stuns collectors every time. The doubling isn't subtle. It isn't something you need high-tech equipment to see. Even with the naked eye, the letters in God We Trust leap out with dramatic shadows, almost like Lincoln's coin is whispering its secret to you. The 2 in 1972 looks doubled, split, as if the mint pressed it twice in its rush to churn out billions of coins. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As more and more people started checking their change, stories of life-changing discoveries began surfacing. A young man in the Midwest paid for coffee with a 1972 penny, not realizing the treasure he handed over. The shopkeeper, a part-time collector, spotted the doubling instantly, and that single cup of coffee turned into the most profitable transaction of his life. Dealers began rushing to get their hands on these coins. Auctions were flooded with eager buyers. And slowly, the legend of the 1972 double die grew, until it reached mythic status. But here's where most people make a mistake: not every 1972 penny is rare. Not even close. In fact, billions of ordinary 1972 pennies are still circulating, worth only their face value. The trick is knowing how to spot the right one. And this is where so many collectors miss their million-dollar miracle. There are minor double dies, small variations that look similar, but they're not the ones worth millions. The true treasure, the one that could change your life, shows bold, clear doubling across the entire date and motto. If the doubling is faint, if it only appears on one letter, chances are it's a common variation. But when the whole word liberty looks doubled, when in God we trust practically vibrates with shadowed letters, when the 1972 looks stamped twice, then you may have found the jackpot. Collectors were shocked when the first of these sold for an eye-watering sum. Dealers couldn't believe it when another example fetched close to $1 million. And when the record-breaking sale crossed 2.1 million, the coin world was shaken to its core. And yet, the story isn't over, because the truth is, no one knows how many of these coins are still hiding. Some may be buried in dusty change jars in attics. Some may be sitting forgotten in old bank rolls, untouched for 50 years. And some might be in your very own pocket right now. So here's what you need to do: pick up every 1972 penny you find. Hold it under the light. Look closely at the date, especially the 2. Look at the word liberty. Check, in God we trust. If the letters and numbers look doubled, bold, and clear, you could be staring at a coin worth hundreds of thousands, or even millions. Don't make the mistake of ignoring it. Don't assume it's just another penny, because one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And yours could too. This isn't just a story about coins. It's a story about hidden treasures all around us. About how history, chance, and pure luck can collide in the smallest of objects, and change a life forever. So the next time you hear the clink of a penny hitting the counter, don't look away. Don't dismiss it. Look closer. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up forgotten in an old jar of change, but when it finally surfaced, it shocked the entire collecting world by reaching a value most people thought was impossible. A single penny from 1980, hiding an overlooked secret, is now worth up to $2.2 million. How could a coin made of copper and zinc, stamped out by the billions, hold a value higher than a mansion, a sports car, or even someone's lifelong savings? The answer is hidden in its story, and if you have one of these, your life could change forever. In 1980, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco struck Lincoln Memorial pennies by the hundreds of millions. To most people, they were just pocket change, brown, ordinary, nothing special. But every once in a while, the minting process creates something extraordinary. A microscopic error. A detail so rare it escapes detection. And in the case of the 1980 penny, that detail has turned an everyday coin into $1 million miracle. One such coin was almost lost to time. A collector stumbled upon it in a small lot of circulated pennies, tossed in a bag that dealers had written off as worthless. But when he looked closer, he noticed something different. His heart raced. The mint mark wasn't where it should be. The lettering carried strange doubling. And the surface shimmered in a way that ordinary coins simply do not. That he knew he was holding something special. But he didn't know just how special, not yet, because when this penny finally went to auction, the bid started small. 100. 1,000. 10,000. But the numbers kept climbing. Dealers leaned forward, collectors whispered in disbelief, and the auctioneer's gavel echoed like thunder. The final hammer price? Over $2 million for a single penny that most people would have overlooked as pocket change. But what happened next stunned the coin world even more. Suddenly, collectors everywhere began digging through their change jars, searching through rolls of pennies, hoping lightning would strike twice. Dealers rushed to old inventory, desperate to see if they had missed a 1980 treasure. It was as if the entire nation was suddenly awake to the possibility that one of these coins might be hiding in plain sight. So, what exactly makes a 1980 mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny worth millions? It comes down to a rare cocktail of errors, condition, and survival. Some 1980 pennies left the mint with dramatic doubling on the obverse, Lincoln's profile, his date, even the words, "In God We Trust." Others carry misplaced or faint mint marks, a mistake that should never have happened but somehow slipped through. And when those rare errors are preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition, the kind of flawless shine most coins lose after a single day in circulation, they transform into treasures worth fortunes. Collectors were shocked when grading services confirmed the authenticity of these rarities. Every line in Lincoln's coat. Every letter in Liberty. Every curve in the 1980 date mattered. And the difference between an ordinary coin worth a cent and $1 million masterpiece came down to details only the sharpest eyes could spot. But here's the twist that keeps collectors awake at night: most people assume only old coins, from the 1800s or early 1900s, can reach $1 million values. Yet here we are, with a penny minted in 1980, within living memory, carrying a value higher than gold, higher than diamonds, higher than nearly anything you could imagine. And the truth is, most people are still walking past them every single day without even looking. Imagine this. A man in Ohio empties his pockets after work. He tosses his change into a drawer, never thinking twice. Years later, his son sifts through that same drawer and finds a 1980 penny. But this one gleams differently. It's sharper, crisper, untouched by time. He takes it to a dealer. The dealer examines it under magnification, his eyes widening. He whispers two words: life-changing. That coin, once forgotten, once destined to disappear, now carries a value well into the millions, and that's not an exaggeration. These auction results are real. The stories of these discoveries are real. And every collector knows, the next find could be theirs. But what should you look for if you want to know whether your 1980 penny could be the one worth millions? Here's the key: start with the mint mark. Check carefully under the date. If it's a Denver D or a San Francisco S, examine it closely. Is the mint mark doubled, tilted, misplaced? That tiny variation could mean everything. Next, look at the lettering. On some rare examples, the words, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty" show doubling, clear even without a microscope if you tilt it under the light. That's a sign you may be holding a double die, one of the rarest errors in modern U.S. coinage. Finally, condition is everything. A scratched or worn coin won't command anywhere near the same value. But a brilliant uncirculated penny, preserved in nearly perfect condition, can send collectors into a frenzy. Grading services like PCGS or NGC can confirm the quality, and once that happens, the value skyrockets. Collectors call it the thrill of the hunt. Dealers call it a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And for the lucky few who discover one of these pennies, it becomes a story they will tell for generations, the day their pocket change turned into a fortune. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't dismiss that brown, ordinary penny too quickly. Turn it over. Study it under the light. Because hidden in the folds of history, in the minting errors of 1980, there lies a coin that can change your destiny. Fortunes have been made, lives have been transformed, and the world of numismatics has been shaken, all because someone took a closer look at a penny most people would have spent without a second thought.